So what does your future look like 5 to 10 years from now as far as what tech will bring? Rockin' Dave Blair's in-house, and we'll be chatting about that. Jack and Amy from It Takes Two in Fargo are going to be joining us in about 15 minutes or so, and we're going to talk about Cyber Monday. See if there's any great deals out there. And, of course, we're going to be talking some tech news of the day, including net neutrality. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people understand. So we'll delve into that in a little bit as well. And, of course, at the control panel, producer extraordinaire Jim Walsh.
Yeah, the net neutrality thing, very controversial. A lot of strong opinions on this subject on both sides of the issue.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, Jim, is I think people who can make money off the fact that the net will not be neutral are the ones that are trying to get rid of it. You know,
I mean, you're hearing a lot of doom and gloom, to be perfectly frank about it, from the people who are like it the way it is.
Right. Well, and this is the thing, you know, and I kind of like it the way it is. I don't really want it to be messed with. And the reason for that, so if you're not familiar with net neutrality, basically what that means, if you're an internet service provider, you cannot differentiate by any means whatsoever. You can't, basically make a connection to somebody else a little bit slower. So, or whatever. So let's say, for example, our local service provider decided to get into a contract with Amazon, okay? And they don't have the same contract with eBay. So they could actually open up the pipes wide open to Amazon, and they could slow every connection down to eBay because Amazon's paying a couple extra dollars to our internet service provider to do that. And the people who like net neutrality say, hey, that's not the thing.
Right.
It's no different, and this is the way you have to look at this. When you make a phone call, does it matter if you're calling Amazon or eBay? The service is exactly the same, correct?
Yeah.
And the thing is, with net neutrality, it's almost like your phone system. In fact, it's a form of communication that came over the phone lines originally. So
initially,
that's why we have it this way. So I don't know. What do you think, Dave?
Well, and isn't that part of the FCC? Aren't they involved with that?
Well, I believe they are.
They're going to have a say.
Yeah,
right,
they are.
Right. I'm just not sure. I think they write the guidelines for net neutrality, which was controversial last year.
Well, I know the commissioner, he was quoted over the weekend as saying that net neutrality is a solution that doesn't work for a problem that doesn't exist. Those were his words.
Interesting.
And there are a lot of people who disagree with that very strongly.
Well, I just think that if you don't... This is an area where I think you have to have a little regulation, because I really do believe, and I don't know, it's probably not in the best interest for an internet service provider, and that's somebody that you pay your monthly bill to have internet coming to your house or to your business. It may not be in their best interest to slow that connection down a little bit right now, but in the future, and I'm thinking about streaming services, you're going to have a huge war going on between like Netflix and Amazon Prime, for example, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I really see this playing out. And Netflix is going to come to you and say, we'll give you a couple bucks a month per subscriber if you just open your pipes up a little bit over here.
Well, that's the big case against it.
Yeah. And I truly believe that and everybody can say that that's not going to happen, but I believe that will happen.
Okay.
So.
I think the interesting thing that we all have to take into consideration right now is that the satellite technology is moving quickly, and you're going to see having your own cell phone using satellite technology. It's happening right now. In fact, I'm involved with a company called Viasat. They just launched their second Satellite, yeah, that's it. That one thing that floats up in the air.
Satellite communication.
Yeah. So, and you might appreciate this because you were on a cruise. So right now, it's really expensive to use your phone on a cruise,
especially if you don't turn your roaming off. Then it's very expensive. Very fast.
Now you're going to have instant satellite connections with this company called Viasat, and it's a small premium you pay, so you can use it wherever you want.
Yep.
Same way at home, I think you're going to be able to have your own internet, your dish, zooming up to this satellite,
Right.
coming back down, so you're connecting. So
Right.
the satellite stuff is there, and it's going to continue to grow, because the problem we have with a lot of providers is the bandwidth.
Right.
That's going away.
Right.
And because, imagine what we have out there right now with cell phones and internet. The bandwidth is really depleted.
Well, it's more and more so all the time, because we are all starting to stream more and more video, and video is the big hog of all of this stuff. I heard a statistic the other day that of all the use on our campuses, our colleges across the country, 92% is streaming video.
Yeah.
If you got rid of the streaming video part in our college campuses, and that's what they're doing in their dorms or whatever, they're watching Netflix and everything else,
Yep.
right? You got rid of that, you wouldn't even have, a lot of the issues that we have with the lack of bandwidth that we have.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's a huge infrastructure problem, and it's interesting that satellites are getting involved, and probably will be more and more so all the time. It makes me wonder that if net neutrality goes away, if municipalities like townships or whatever will start offering internet as a utility, like you'd pay for your electricity and your natural gas and all that other
Is
stuff.
anybody doing that yet?
There are
Yep.
some.
Yeah.
There are some communities that do
Yep.
that, but most of them don't want to do it because they don't want to compete with business basically.
Right.
But if it becomes an unfair thing where people are not able to access things because the provider is not allowing them to access it, then wow, I think that there will be a play for that. So.
And you're seeing that happen, especially in a lot of rural areas too, where their communications are somewhat limited.
Very limited.
Because of they just don't have the fiber going into the house.
Well, and
then
you have limited choices.
Yeah,
right. I mean, around
exactly.
here, we really, even in Bismarck, Mandan, North Dakota, we don't have, because we're basically rural, we don't have a lot of choices as far as how we get our internet here. I mean, we have a great provider, absolutely fantastic provider, but it makes you wonder that if net neutrality went away and somebody was throwing $1 million or $5 or $10 million a year at them, if that would change. I don't know.
Well, and you're really seeing too, in a lot of situations, you got a lot of these small co-ops out there, telephone co-ops, okay, and they're struggling, because of just what we're talking about here, and so you've got a lot of different service providers that need to understand that it's all about making money, right?
Right.
I mean, and so how do they do that? And so it's going to be an interesting year. FCC making some decisions here too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know go ahead, Jim.
I was going to say the libertarian in me is really divided on this, because I'm inclined to say free market. But, we live in a world where we don't really have a perfect market. In a perfect market, it would probably work complete laissez-faire would probably work, but we don't live in that kind of world.
Absolutely. And I think
we live in a Keynesian world.
I'm betting that we have Jack and Amy on the line.
Hello. Let me try this again here. No, they should be there. Hang on. Hello. Anybody home?
Let's go to our break, Jim, and
Let's
then
go to our break.
we'll get that figured out. All right, everybody, after the break, Jack and Amy from It Takes Two in Fargo will be joining us to talk about cybersecurity. So come on back.
Currently, it's 42.
The home for ABC News at the top of the hour is SuperTalk 1270.
Follow the Guru of Geek at Facebook.com/The Tech Ranch or Twitter at Guru of Geek or TheTechRanch.com. Here again is your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
And we want to thank all of our followers across the country and around the world who listen to us on the Blueberry Network. We're on the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. We're on the Roku. We're on iTunes. We're on Apple TV. And, of course, our own app, Radio Pup. All kinds of places you can catch us live or as a rerun. And we're kind of waiting on Jack and Amy. We did have them, but we're having some connectivity difficulty here, so I'm not sure.
You know what I blame it on?
What's that?
Net neutrality.
Yep.
I totally blame it on.
I
yes.
totally agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll reach back out here again shortly, and we'll get them on as soon as we can do that. So we'll just continue our talk.
We'll blame it on the geezer.
We should do that. That's a good idea. So Jim, did you go out and buy anything over the weekend?
Not really. Well,
Okay.
my wife and I went out and had a nice dinner. We had our
Oh, nice.
Thanksgiving dinner
Okay.
belatedly on Saturday. It was
Okay.
real nice. As far as shopping is concerned, we'll probably we're going to do a lot of it online. I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you feel that your habits with buying online, or maybe your fear, I guess is a better word, right? Your fear of buying online has gone away over the last couple of years. Did you have a fear initially of putting out your credit card and all that good stuff? And
Oh, there's always that concern.
You still have that concern.
I still have that concern.
Okay,
Yeah,
Dave,
very
how
much
about
so.
you? You still have that concern too?
Yeah, I think so. But I think the biggest challenge that we have, and I'm just one of these guys that likes to hold and feel what I'm buying.
Right.
Yeah.
And, and I know a lot of people will go to a store and look at it and then come back home and order it.
They do that.
But
Yeah.
I'm a local guy. I just really like to support the local businesses. And I think, this year's going to really determine, are we going to be paying sales tax and stuff that we order online?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I know that there are more and more. Like if you buy on Amazon or whatever now, most of the time, I think I get charged sales tax quite often when I buy online now.
Well, the commissioner, Mr. Rauschenberger,
Yes.
he's part of this campaign now to get the Supreme Court to overturn the ruling,
Right.
which, by the way, was a ruling that involved North Dakota.
Yes.
In which they said you have to, you can't charge sales tax to a company that doesn't have a brick and mortar presence
Right.
in the state.
Right.
And he is not happy with that. His take is that, his public take at least, is that the state is losing out on a lot of revenue, which,
Right.
let's face it, is the real deal here.
That's the real deal.
That plus the fact that he would claim that the local brick and mortar operations are not getting a fair shake. And my answer to that would be, well, if you feel that way, then just drop the sales tax for the brick and mortar.
Right. That's an interesting analogy, actually. And you could make the case that, and I'm going to pick on rural America for the most part. The internet's a great equalizer when it comes to business, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yep.
I can set up shop in Flasher, North Dakota, or I can set up shop in L.A. or Flasher, or in New York, right?
Right.
So, but when you're buying something online, a lot of times you don't really know who you're buying from. I mean, where they're located at, or whatever. That's almost a secondary thing nowadays, where they're actually located at, right? So you could make because it's actually cheaper to set up shop in rural America, that it gives us an advantage economically, because, what's more important to us, primary jobs or sales tax? Primary
Yeah.
sector jobs or sales tax. And that's the argument I think you have to make. And I would absolutely say that those jobs are absolutely more important than sales tax, because if you start taxing everybody the same, then we don't have an advantage anymore.
Yeah.
In my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's so many fulfillment opportunities out there for companies and cities to get involved with that.
Yep.
And, the big thing comes down to inventory, the product, getting it out. And one of the things you find out about North Dakota is that, our population base really expedites quicker deliveries, whether
Right.
it's for the post office,
Sure.
FedEx, UPS.
Yeah, exactly.
And so why wouldn't a fulfillment operation here in North Dakota, or in some of these smaller towns, it'd be perfect.
it would be absolutely perfect. So I guess you have to make that. And I understand that the tax commissioners of every state, not
Yeah.
just North Dakota,
Yeah.
but every state.
South Dakota's the head of it. Their guy is the head of the whole
Yeah,
campaign.
this has been a big deal for a very long period of time.
Ever since
because-
1992.
Yeah, and they just every year, of course, there are more and more people buying online. I think right now it's like 6.8% of Christmas sales, holiday sales will be over online, which still isn't really that much.
No.
Yeah.
When you think
Well,
about it.
let's face it. Let's be honest. It's all about the state wanting to find another way to get their hands on more of our money.
That's all it's about.
Which is all it's really about. I just wish people would stop being disingenuous about it. I mean, we actually have Mr. Rauschenberger, the commissioner, going on and on about how frustrated he was because he wanted to pay the voluntary tax, and it was so difficult to do so. And boy, I really felt sorry for him. Almost. No, not really. Who feels sorry for somebody because they can't pay their taxes. They're volunteer. Come on.
How do you really feel about it, Jim?
I wanted to pay my taxes.
Yeah, I think there is a line on our tax form that you can actually state, how much you bought online.
Yeah.
And they do audit people. I don't know if you knew this. I actually got audited one time about this a few years back. So they do audit people about this. So it's just that they don't have the staff to audit everybody. So
Well, it's like that little voluntary box that they let you check. If you want to donate $1 to the presidential campaigns,
Right.
I never checked. I figure they're going to get my money one way or the other.
So
why
do they
make it easier on them?
So my question for that, I've never investigated this. Wow, we're really getting way off topic here. But when you check that, does it add $1 to your tax bill, or do they just take it out of what you've already paid them?
I guess they basically it's debit versus credit, basic accounting. They just if you owe so much, they take an extra $1. If you got a refund, they take $1 out of that.
I see. Okay.
I think it'd be interesting to find out how much money's generated with that $1.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I bet it'd be amazing. Actually,
exactly.
Yeah,
like $4.
Yeah, $4. Yeah, poor people in the country. All the presidential candidates check it, and that's it. Right?
Oh, look, we got $1 from Mr. Rauschenberger here. Who else? A couple of guys in Illinois, I think. Bernie Sanders, maybe.
All right. We'll get off our high horse here. So, I just, I'm kind of with you, Dave. I like to shop local first, but I do buy a lot of stuff online too. Because again, we're disadvantaged here where we live in a rural part of the country, so it's difficult sometimes to get the items that, especially since I'm an early integrator to technology.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time, by the time we get stuff in our tech stores around here, I'm already on to the next generation.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
For me,
we're not exactly cutting edge. I mean, we're not exactly a cutting edge market.
We're not.
Just because we're so isolated.
Right. Exactly right.
Well, and hey, the internet companies out there know our shopping tendencies, and man, you get ads all the time.
Yep.
Whether it's on your phone or on your computer.
Absolutely, they're cooking you and letting you know exactly.
You bet. Hey, save 20%.
Exactly right.
Well, I can. The 30% down at the store.
Yep.
I would think it would get better though. I mean, as we get to be more and more of a global village, where it really doesn't matter as much how close we are, like you say, to the major hub markets.
Yeah,
I would think it would improve on its own.
I just think that it really is an advantage to rural America, how we keep people in our small towns and that type of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, people live here for a reason.
Right. But the challenge is that if you're in a small town, there aren't as many jobs as there used to be because agriculture, the size of a farm has moved from whatever it used to be a few hundred acres to thousands of acres, and it's mostly corporate farming going on. Right?
I saw something very similar happen in Texas when I lived there a few decades ago. In 1 year, I saw the city of Amarillo go from boom, boom, boom to bust, bust, bust because their whole economy was based on farming and oil.
Right.
And when you had the perfect storm of both of those industries going into recession,
yep,
it was not a pretty picture.
And that's happened here many times.
Yeah, you bet. That's what's happening right now.
Right.
That's why our sales tax is down.
Right.
Our state is down. But
so you could say that anybody who's in a small town right now listening to us should take heed to this. I mean,
I agree.
There's huge opportunity for rural America when it comes to internet sales, and I had a great time at it's called Fusion, which was in Bowman, North Dakota a couple weeks ago, and that was really interesting. Talking to a lot of rural people, and the ability for people, you're on the farm, right, and you weld. I mean, there's somebody out there that would love to hire you, or maybe you're artistic a little bit and you want to weld things together, but you don't have a market where you live at. And you don't really want to get into, selling your wares online or whatever. But that's an opportunity for somebody in town to say, hey, I could create a marketplace and have that person supply me with this stuff. And there's all kinds of people out there that have talent that could sell stuff.
Yep.
You see it in this line of work in radio. There are guys who live in towns like Bismarck, or maybe they live down south because they like the weather, but they're doing shows in Toronto or something.
Exactly.
Because you can do it now digitally.
Yes.
And nobody knows the difference.
It's amazing.
Well, but the key there is high-speed internet,
right?
And having that ability, and that's the key. That North Dakota. I mean, we're pretty blessed to have the kind of quality internet that we have, but that's not the same in a lot of states.
In fact, you get really spoiled.
It hasn't caught up.
When
I
you
would
travel.
think by now.
Actually, it hasn't, Jim.
Oh,
And
really?
I have to admit that is probably one of the key things because, as you know, I travel a lot.
Sure.
And Dave does too. I mean, there's nothing more frustrating than when we travel and you're like, are you kidding me? How can the internet be this slow here?
So you can't go to some town somewhere and just automatically assume it's going to be on the same
No,
level as here.
not even
Whoa.
close.
Nope.
Not even close.
Yeah.
In fact, if you look at a heat map, and I know we're really pushing North Dakota, so everybody across the country who's listening, please move here now. We have great
68
jobs
degrees
and,
today too.
It's just amazing here. So, but yeah, if you look at a heat map, almost all of North Dakota has gigabit service now.
Sure.
And there are zones like on the East Coast. There's a little bit here and there on the West Coast, but we are very fortunate that we had leadership a few years ago that took the time to put fiber in and all this other stuff that is making this possible now. So,
well, the big key is that a lot of corporations now are looking for people to work at home.
Right.
So, I mean, now you don't have to even go into the office, and so what's going to happen there with office space?
Office space is going to shrink
it's
down
going to
like
change.
crazy.
It's going to change a little bit.
I'm changing the way I look at that myself right now. In fact, I don't even look for the ability to actually have more office space because people want to work from their homes. So why not, right?
I
I'd love to
don't.
do
I
that.
don't.
Yeah,
I got to
absolutely.
leave. I got to get out of my house.
Never leave the house.
Well, yeah, we go to our coffee shops, right? So, all right, everybody, after the break, we'll continue. We're actually moving into that section on talking about the future, and I'm not sure if we're going to get Jack and Amy back, but we'll try to make that happen too.
Currently, it's 42.
The Red River Farm Network. Ag News is here on SuperTalk 1270.
We're back to the Tech Ranch. Stream this program now at supertalk1270.com. Here is your guru of geek, Marlo Anderson.
All right, Jim, Bitcoin, $9,537.
Whoa.
I remember looking at that a few years ago, and I always thought it was a scam.
And how much did it sell for at one time that we could have bought in?
You could have bought it for $1.
Oh, man. So I could have put $100 into Bitcoin,
Well, yeah, you'd
and I'd be high on the hog right now.
You would be a millionaire right now. It's just unbelievable. And, we all had this opportunity. I actually was looking at mining bitmaps at one time. I don't know if you're familiar with that whole process, but
I know. I've heard of it.
yeah, and nowadays to mine Bitcoin, you have to really be pretty serious about it. In fact, it usually takes more electricity to mine it than it's worth. So you have to be concerned about those costs when you're doing that. But crazy. And people are talking. So today, I guess hedge funds now are starting to throw money into Bitcoin. So is there an end to this?
Can we assume for now that Bitcoin specifically is now pretty much a game for the high rollers?
Well, no, it doesn't have to be, because the thing is that you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can just throw $100 into it today.
I mean, how much further up can it go?
I don't know the answer to that, but because I would have never dreamed in a million years. I mean, when did I do that piece 2 weeks ago for the local news here? And it was $7,000, and we were watching as people were moving $1 million at a time on the screen then on it. And I'm like, all right, the bubble's going to burst. It's going to come back down, right? And I mean, we could have collectively, the three of us, threw a couple $1,000s into that and pretty much made 30% of our money in 2 weeks.
And we're retired.
Well, if we'd have gone in at the dollar, I'm just talking in 2 weeks, we would have, if we all threw $1,000 in, we would have made $300 in 2 weeks on this.
Yeah, I mean,
deal
don't
already.
take this personally, but I wouldn't be anywhere near this place.
That's incredible.
I'd be down in Puerto Rico somewhere on my boat.
I am
with
just
no electricity.
shocked by this.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, and I'm sure there's some people listening to this that are smiling about the fact that it's approaching $10,000. But anyway,
Schadenfreude.
So Jack and Amy, we've scrapped that. We've had some technical difficulties getting in. They just texted me and said that we'll try it again some other time. So hopefully we'll do that again maybe next week. I love having those guys on the show, though. It's a lot of fun to have Jack and Amy on here. So we're going to get into what the future looks like. And
the world of tomorrow.
That's right. The world of tomorrow. It will be tomorrow.
Yes.
So it's going to be interesting how quickly things are going to change, in the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to be, I think, so significant. And I'm going to equate this to about 1910, 1915. So especially out around here, because a lot of people were still riding horse.
Were we a state? I think we had just barely become a state, right?
Yes, in 1889 we became a state here. So
we were.
So we're 20 or 30 years into statehood already at that time. But I mean, you think about this. You probably, there were people in 1920, 1925 that were riding horse into town. In fact, I remember reading an article about Mandan, North Dakota during the parade, and they were excited. This is 1922, and they were excited that we had over 200 cars in town for the 4th of July parade.
Horseless carriages.
So you think about that now.
I was there.
Yes, you were tech geezer. But imagine, you grew up, you're on a horse in your field or whatever, riding to town. You get passed up by a car, and then there's some contraption that's flying over you at the same time.
Yeah.
Because you lived in that era where you were riding horses, driving cars, and flying airplanes. They were all modes of transportation back
That's
then.
what Eisenhower said. He said, I have literally, in my lifetime, I've gone from seeing people throwing spears at each other to people setting off hydrogen bombs.
Yes, that's correct. It was an amazing transformation, and we're about ready to do that again. And we don't even know what that means, but we know that
we have no idea what it means.
Yeah. But we know that we're about there because, I mean, and simple things like, Dave, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? What's going to be different 10 years from now?
I really think medicine is moving.
Well, that's not where I thought you were going to go.
Oh,
but
really?
That's okay. But
No.
great.
I mean,
agree with
I think it's medicine. If you talk about technologies and what's happening, it's going to be the speed of light that's going to happen. I mean, look at the transformation from horseless carriage to where we're at today,
Right.
autonomous vehicles, and
So
it's
100
take
years.
several hundred years.
100 years. Just 100 years.
100 years.
Yes.
So we can't wait that. People can't wait that long. They won't.
But we're going to go from regular driving, where you and I are driving vehicles, to driverless vehicles in 10 years.
Yeah. Right.
So it took 100 years for us to get to this point.
Right.
And it's only going to take 10 years now to go from, so basically we're going back to when the horse could take us home. We had too many drinks at the saloon that night, and our horse would drive us home anyway.
Yep. Well, we had Uber horse drivers.
Yeah, did we?
Oh, yes, we did. Hey, call up my buddy here and have him come over because I can't even get on my horse.
Yeah, I lost a fortune on that.
So a lot of this is going to happen because of quantum computers. So if you're not familiar with quantum computers, I'm just going to give you a very, very quick scenario. So quantum computers basically could only run near absolute zero. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't have a room in my house that runs that cold. I know it gets cold in North Dakota, but it's still not absolute
Not quite
zero.
that cold,
Not quite
yeah.
that cold, right?
Right.
So just recently they were able to break that barrier, so now that quantum computers are starting to run at room temperature. So your laptop, the one I just bought just over the weekend here, and a nice i7 machine, but that would probably rank it. So quantums are ranked in qubits, and that's the speed of what it's ranked at. So basically, a laptop right now that you buy would probably rank in that 10 to 20 qubit range, and desktops or whatever.
Okay.
Right? The fastest computer in the world is around 50 qubits in speed right now.
Okay.
So in 3 years, you will buy a new computer, a quantum computer, for about the same price as what you're paying for right now, that will run between 1 million and 10 million qubits. We're talking 100,000 to 1 million times faster than the fastest computer on the planet right now. So what does that mean?
9,000 is on the way.
What does that mean? You're right. Do computers become self-aware almost immediately when that happens?
Yeah.
Does you talk about medicine, right? So the genome, I mean, there's so much information when you're talking about taking apart DNA, just crazy amounts of information. Well, if you can do it at the speed of light, basically, and start breaking these things apart, what does that do when we're looking at the genome of somebody who has Down syndrome and all this other stuff, and the ability to really peer in there and see what's going on? I think it's going to be amazing.
Yep.
It's
No question
scary,
about it.
but it's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Cars, you know, your phone, you talk about the universal translator, right? So you go to a foreign country, and our phones are getting better at this. If you talk French into your phone, or if you talk English into the phone, it'll spit out French in a couple seconds, right? There will be no lag.
Right.
It'll be almost instantaneous. As you're talking, your phone is going to spit this information out. It's just going to be amazing. So, anyway.
We talk about, you know, the other thing is earlier we talked about bandwidth and being able to have enough of that. So, I mean, you can have these really, really super fast computers, but can the internet stay up with that as well?
That will be a challenge. Infrastructure will be a huge challenge.
It will be.
So, and one of the things that I know you both know that I preached a lot about this, but infrastructure needs, right? So
Right.
Infrastructure, see, drones are going to start picking up our stuff for us. In 10 years, you know, 45% of the time that you're on the road right now when you're driving is going after stuff like that cup of coffee or going after dropping your computer off to get it, you know, repaired, or picking up a pizza to take home, or whatever it is that you're going after, right? So I believe that drones are going to take care of most of that stuff in our future. And I'm talking 10 years again, so it's not that far into the future. So when that happens, we have fewer and fewer cars on the road. So why are we going to be spending billions and trillions of dollars on new roads and all this other infrastructure going into this country? Because the roads are going to get used less moving into the future. Where we should be spending our infrastructure dollars is on pipelines for internet and information sharing. So,
Yep.
Well, my guess is they'll keep the the interstate system of roads.
oh yeah,
Simply as a, the original intention was for military purposes, to move troops around
Absolutely.
in a national emergency.
Yeah.
Eisenhower got that idea from the Autobahn in Germany.
Right.
But, yeah, it does make you wonder about all the other highways and byways and what's going to happen to them.
you're still always going to need that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're always going to need, trucking is still one of the most efficient ways to move product around the country.
Yeah.
And that's not going to go away. I mean, the way, it may be autonomous trucks that will be moving our stuff, but it won't be, you still need roads for that type of thing. It's just a general running around of what you and I do that's going to go away.
I was like Route 66 doesn't exist anymore because they don't need it. I mean, there's a few patches where you can take the scenic route, and that's
Yep.
about it.
I was at the hometown of Route 66 just a week and a half ago.
In Arizona?
Yes. Sallywag. Is that
Sallywag?
I got to look. I never get the name of the town right, but I just accidentally ran into it. It was an amazing place to go to. It reminded me of the movie Cars, actually.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
it is just that way. It's just kind of crazy.
Well, and you talk about technology, and we've had this conversation, I think, a few times too, is, the flying cars.
Yep.
Again, they'll use them for a period of time to go from one destination to another, but man, bypassing all those traffic jams and everything like that, when you can just jump in your
gonna be
car and
amazing.
fly over it
yeah,
all.
and we'll be
I'm
talking
imag-
about
yeah.
that and more after the break.
Currently, it's 42.
Dave Ramsey is heard here. SuperTalk 1270.
Follow the Guru of Geek everywhere he goes. Post your comments or questions at thetechranch.com. Once again, your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
Now that doesn't mean that you physically follow me everywhere I go.
I would hope not.
I know you were Jim, thinking about, that wouldn't be so bad, actually.
Yeah.
But welcome back, everybody. We are talking about the future today, and we were getting into flying cars right before the break. So think about this. You don't think flying cars are going to happen? And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to us right now. They're like, "Are you kidding me? Flying cars?"
Well, people thought television would never happen.
That's right. But there are absolutely manufacturers that are making flying cars, and some of them are actually being used in Dubai right now as a part of an Uber-like service. And there's two of them flying around there. They fly at 110 miles an hour, and they zip you around town. And it's interesting because that particular, and you're like, oh my goodness, now I'm going to have to learn how to fly.
Why there and not here? Why is it not happening
Less
here
regulation. And Dubai is that town is a very early integrator to technology. They always have been.
Yeah.
They love new and great stuff, and they just don't have the regulatory issues like we do here.
Which isn't so bad, because now we can get a lot of the testing results and what they've done, so that if once we get it here in the United States, we can see, hey, how many more accidents were there, or the whole idea of data and what you're collecting.
What you're saying is we're going to learn from their mistakes.
And
basically, yeah.
It's funny how we have grown into that society, Jim.
Yeah.
Because the regulatory is here, so these companies have these great new ideas, and they go elsewhere to test them, and they use other people in the rest of the world as guinea pigs for this.
Well, I've heard that Canada's talking about doing a lot of this experimentation. I mean, people think of Canada as almost like a democratic socialist country, but in some ways they're more laissez-faire than we are.
Yeah, they're pretty progressive when it comes to technology, and they actually have the Autonomous Vehicle Center for Excellence, and that's been around for, I'm guessing, a half a dozen years already. So they've been around for a while. So they're very progressive when it comes to this technology. They understand the value of it, because some of their challenges up there is some of the shipping lanes, like the Hudson Bay route, for example. Not as many people use that, or companies use that anymore to ship goods, because it's not cost effective, right? Well, if we're able to start moving things autonomously, it becomes very cost effective again, and that'll open those ports up even more, and that brings more prosperity to Canada.
Well, traveling's an issue there too. Everything is just so spread out. You think it's spread out here. You go up there, you're just driving for miles and miles on nothing.
Nothing.
Well, it's interesting. Canada has always looked at the United States as the leader in a lot of things. I mean, if you go to Canada, they know more about politics and what's happening in the United States than most Americans do as well. So, but this is one area where I think they are taking a really aggressive approach to new technology when it comes to autonomous vehicles. And I really believe that you're going to see a lot of good things coming out of Canada.
So the flying car thing, getting back to that, so there are companies that you've never heard of, like eHang. Now they make drones, and they make basically a drone for people. It's just a big drone that you sit in this egg pod shaped type of thing, and you zip around. And that's the ones that are being used in Dubai right now. Now, Airbus is also getting involved with this, and they are actually going to be testing their first flying car in December.
Where?
Probably over in Europe someplace. Okay. But because Airbus, I believe, is in France, correct?
Right.
So, so they're going to be over there. But I just seen some prototypes of just coming off. They're building two of them in their shop, and they're about ready to test them. So,
what about Germany? You would think Germany would be on the cutting edge of a lot of this stuff.
Well, isn't that where Volvo is at?
I believe so.
Volvo is huge in autonomous vehicles. In fact, they just signed a deal with Lyft, or was it Uber?
No, I think it was Uber.
Okay. Yeah. So I think they're supplying them 250,000 vehicles or something like that, autonomous vehicles. So absolutely, they're in the game.
Yeah, and Volvo's really taken off when it comes to trucks.
Oh, huge when it comes to trucking.
You think about Freightliner and all of those companies Peterbilt, but Volvo has really stepped up.
So do you think that in the future, well, I'll put it this way, if the price was the same for you to buy a car or a flying car, and you had a little less distance that you could take when you're taking a flying car, what would your choice be?
Well, I'm always one of those people that don't mind trying something new as long as somebody else has done it first. But I think I would want to experiment with, hey, Marlo, you got a flying car now. Let's go.
Yep.
Then I would make a decision later on saying, yeah, let's do that.
Gotcha.
But I think the key here is, what kind of training do you need to be able to? It is
totally autonomous. You program it on your phone.
Right.
That's what's crazy about this. You do not have to have a pilot's license, and you stay under the 400-foot ceiling that they have set for drones.
Right.
Now that could change in the future. I envision that we'll have skyways, kind of, instead of highways, where maybe when you're going north, you're at the 500-foot level. When you're going south, you're at the 600-foot level. I mean, I would imagine that we'll see stuff
well,
like that.
it's like driving
so.
a car. How much do you really need to know about car mechanics unless you have a breakdown? Not really that much.
Not that much. Yep, and that'll be true with this too. And there'll be a lot of safety protocols. You know, these things are built kind of like helicopters. So if there's any type of malfunction, you're going to flutter kind of to the ground.
You're not going to drop like a rock.
Right.
Okay.
You're probably going to hit the ground kind of hard, but it's not going to be life-threatening. So
Yeah. You asked me that question. Well, you look at me when you were asking Dave that question, and I'm thinking it depends on the specifics of the make and model and everything. I think back to ultralights 30 years ago when they first came out, and of course there were a lot of horror stories about ultralights on TV, people supposedly dropping out of the sky and all that. I remember speaking with an old high school friend who became a pilot. I said, what do you think of ultralights, Brian? He says, well, it's like anything else. It really depends on the make and model. There are some that I wouldn't trust to take me across the driveway. There are some in which I would trust the life of myself and my family. It's like anything else. You probably have to shop around a bit.
Yeah, I would imagine, though, that because this will be public type of transportation, that most of these companies are going to have to go through rigorous testing before they're
I would
available.
hope. Or could it be like the joke about, the rocket that's built by 1,000 guys, all the lowest bidder?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, hopefully that's not the case. But but with all that said, I have a certain degree of comfort now when it comes to flying drones because I've done it for a while. And I'm not afraid of it anymore. I was afraid of it one time. I was also afraid of riding in autonomous cars, but because I've been in 27 of them now, I get to add another little tick. I'm getting close to 30 people. Then now I don't even think anything about it. I hop in there. I have conversations with people. I just think it's the way it's supposed to be. So it's a level of comfort that you get by being around this technology a little bit, I guess.
And what about the careers for the people who are going to have to build and maintain and fix these things?
Well, it's all going to change.
Yeah.
It's all going to change. But you can make the analogy, and I'm going to pick on the phone a little bit. Our jobs are going to be very, very different than what we have, from now to in the future. And there are professions like accounting, for example. You better be looking for a new job. I'm just telling you right now because AI is going to change the world. But the phone system, the phone business, right? Landlines, telephony, all has changed dramatically over the last 40 years. Many people that you and I knew growing up were employed by companies like AT&T and the Bells and things like that, right?
Ma Bell.
All those people are not in work anymore. So hundreds of thousands of people lost their jobs, but there are now millions of people employed because of the new phones.
When I was a kid, there were certain companies that you would say, go work for them, you'll have a job for life. Not anymore.
In fact, a job for life, you might as well just take that out of your vocabulary. You're probably going to have 3 or 4 different career paths.
Yeah, and you're going to see that. I mean, even the millennials now, if you look at them, they might work at a job for a year or two and then move on. And that's just going to become more and more. I mean, I know even with my son, I mean, he's looking at going back to college and doing a lot of stuff online. And I think about what we talked about earlier about fulfillment centers and stuff like that. Logistics is going to be a big thing. So, man, I would be really honing in on that and all the data that you're going to need to gather.
Of course, the hour is gone again, and we barely got started. So we'll have this conversation again another time. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great week.